Hello everyone. So I'm Shruti from Goal is B, and it's nice to have you here. Please share with me where you are logging in from, and do you have an invite for the PGPX interviews over the next 2 weekends? It will be nice to know you. I would really like to know where you are logging in from. And thank you so much for joining us for a post. An interaction post your dinner time. Thank you so much. So, what we are going to have over here is today a discussion on the PGPX essays. What are the topics? So, there are apparently two sets of essay topics, which are, given out to you to write in a very short span of time. How much? Hi, Karan. Thank you so much for joining us. You're from Chandigarh. I'm also from Chandigarh. Nice to have you here. So, so coming back to the PGPX essays, so there are usually sets of essay topics that you will have, and more or less similar. But yes, it's as much up to you to address those essay topics in your unique way. Hi Vasant, thank you for joining us from Pune. Ipsita, nice to have you here from Orissa. And do you have an interview invite? Are you looking forward to meeting the panel very soon? So we'll be taking up the essay topics, and I'll be sharing some samples with you. So when we share the samples, I of course have uh, cut down the sample just to address the actual scope of discussion that we have today. But in any case, if you need the complete samples, you can definitely write to us on email, and the email address would be at the end of this presentation, and we'll share the complete samples with you as well. Hi, Nikhil. Thank you for joining us from New Delhi. And for your questions, you can always, keep on sharing your questions with me during the whole presentation. I'll take a pause on the presentation, and I'll also keep on addressing your questions while we are in the course of this discussion. Right. So let us start with the discussion on the IIM-A PGPX essay topics. Hi, Srinidhi. That's again you're from Chhattisgarh. Very nice. Thank you for joining me. Mani Kandan got shortlisted writing the essays now from the US. Excellent. And Hemant, I missed the round one of IIM's PGPX, and it's the round two. Too late to apply? No, it is not. Hemant, you can always apply. I'm sorry, I'm just cutting short your name because just to not to misspell the rest of it. So considering the batch size, yes, they do. If you look at the individual batch sizes for IIM-A, probably you look at an intake of around 35 to 37 in round one, a similar intake in round two. So you always have scope, and the faculty and the whole team is very much focused on picking the best of the lot. So if you think you have it, round two is equally good as good as round one. So don't worry if you've missed the round one. They'll always be watchful for applicants who really have to make a mark. So don't worry on that. Round two is not late to apply. And just for the process on this presentation, feel free to share your questions. I'll be taking them up as and when I look at them and address them alongside the presentation as well. So keep on sharing your questions. Most welcome. Writing the essays now. Manikandan is writing the essays from the US. Excellent. So Manikandan, how many years of experience do you have in the US? Have you gone there for a master's and then pursued your career over there? Srinidhi, what is your background over there? Hi Shubham, nice to have you here. What if someone is confused about what one needs to do after the program and how to go about it. Shubham, you need to, really connect with what the program has to offer, and again, what you are coming in with, and exactly what is the value that you can draw out of the program. So that is something that everybody is very focused on. So that is something that you need to look into. Research is the only answer, Shubham. Ipsita Sahu, correct. Are the essay questions same for all three rounds? Ipsita, the essay questions being same for all the three rounds, we cannot really predict all of that. Over the past few years, we can say that yes, over the last year, the previous year, the questions were similar. So these questions were actually, they were in two sets. So one set of people got one set of questions, and another set of people, of course, got the other set of questions. So, and those set of questions revolved around the three rounds. Yes. Srinidhi Mishra, working in a PSU, have over 10 years of experience in work in marketing, operations, contract management. So, Srinidhi, you have a very rich experience which you need to communicate very thoroughly over the in the application as well as the interview. So application means the essays that you're submitting now. So if you look at the IIM-A process very closely, you understand that they are taking one resume, they'll be taking three essays, and then they will be going directly into the interview with the panel. And the panel consists, this comprises mostly your the faculty. So when you are putting up your essays, you need to communicate everything in your essays with respect to your the rich work experience that you bring forward. Srinidhi, you need to make sure of doing that. Manikandan has 11 years work ex overall. So Manikandan, I think you are well within range of this program. So make sure you are able to communicate the value well. Pratyush. Hi, Pratyush. Nice to have you here. Thank you for joining us. I have an experience of 9 years and working as a senior manager credit with Bank of Baroda. So, Pratyush, again, you have a very rich experience, provided you are able to, bring out the right extracts out of it. It is going to be a very valuable experience for you as well. Right. So let me just start with what I have over here. So let us just first discuss what is the panel looking at. Himanshu, thank you. Nice to have you here. 5.5 years and working with Tesco Bangalore. Right. So this is a business school essay. It is not your life story. When you are writing your essays, and that too in such a short span of time, you need to really emphasize on the whole value that you bring to the business school. So you need to make sure that you understand your transferable skills. You clearly communicate your career goals, short term as well as long term. Build a clear narrative. Hi Vasan, hi Riddhi. If you have any queries, please keep on putting them here. I'll keep on addressing them. And in any of your, why the school probably gives you such a short time to write your essay so that you can be candid, avoid jargons, be authentic, be realistic in what you want to achieve, so that that can be a basis of your discussion during the interview as well. And use very clear and uncomplicated language. Please avoid the thesaurus at all points. What you need to be clear about here is that the school is looking at very simple business English, and that too communicated in a very realistic manner. So once you do that, I think your essays are good to go. So Basant says 6 years of work ex in automobile sector, product development, testing, and data science analytics. So Basant, you need to build a strong case for why you need an MBA. Riddhi is software developer for 5 years since the experience is bare minimum. Any tips for the interview? Riddhi, again, you need to build a strong case for why you need an MBA for sure. Pranav, 6 years of WorkX as a software developer and four as a product. So is this acha, 2 as a software developer and 4 as a product manager? So I'm assuming, Pranav, since you became a product manager so soon in your career, you are working with a startup. So what in this case is the product management experience that you bring to the table? You need to first understand that yourself and then communicate it very well, because when you're working with a startup and when you're working with an established firm, the difference is that product management in an established firms comes at around 8 to 10 years of experience, whereas in a startup it might come at the same level as you have got it. So you need to draw that distinction well, and to be able to identify what are the skills that you bring to the table and what are the skills that you need to build. So if you are well versed on that discussion, I think you have a good case over here. Nikhil graduated 5 years ago but have work ex of 4.5 years. Will that be a problem? Nikhil, usually it is not a problem. You should be very candid and very authentic with your disclosures over here. As such, it is not a problem. Uh, RB says, chef with 7 years of work ex, 740 GMAT. How good are my chances? And got an interview invite. So RB, since you've got an interview invite, I am nobody to tell you about your chances. Now it is for you to take that chance and present your case well. So focus on your essays and focus on your interview. That is something that is going to bring you that advantage. Mani Hemant says CMAT of 680, 8 years in digital marketing. So Mani, do you have already have an invite from IIM Ahmedabad, or are you planning to apply to round 2? Need MBA in order to be eligible for diverse marketing roles. So, of course, an MBA will definitely help you to be eligible for brand management and product management roles. But again, you are the person who needs to, specify and communicate that well through your essays and your application. Product Design Manager with 10 plus years of work. So, do you have an interview call right now? Chances depend on a lot of things that you bring forward. It depends on, how well is your, the essay and the whole dialogue set forward, number one. Before that, probably your GMAT as well as your grades. So you need to go through the whole process to be able to define those chances. Except for that, your chances are always 50% in, 50% out. Unless you go through the whole process, you can never say what your chances are. Everything else is random. Planning to apply with a GMAT of 700, definitely that will help you. So if you can do that, definitely you should go ahead, ma'am. 4 years of experience in state PSU in electrical sector. Uh, how can I present my current job profile to consulting? So, Ipsita, you need to have prepared for a role in consulting. That is something that the AdCom will definitely like to look into. How you have prepared for that, and what is it that you really understand out of a role in consulting, and is your preparation well suited to what the recruiters want. So, if you are able to communicate that through your essays as well as your interview, I think you are in for a good start. Srinidhi, has any quota round-wise seats or for the PGP selection? So, Srinidhi, this is something which is very specific to the system that probably IIM-A has. They have a very specific guideline for the PGP program. For the PGPX program, you should definitely communicate with the PGPX admissions team with your candidature and see where you fit. Riddhi, any idea how many people will be interviewed in R1 and how many are selected? So, Riddhi, I don't know how many will be interviewed this time. As per our estimation over the last year, it has been around 200 or 230 or 40 people interviewed in one round, and with the selection of around 35 or 37 people. So that's the level of competition that you're looking at, because the whole lot of seats is around 140. That's it. So, One note about something important about the IIM-A PGPX, applicants who are looking at putting in their applications and their essays by 4th of September, the essays cannot be copy pasted. So you cannot, work in a Word file and then just copy paste it to the IIM-A PGPX portal. You need to type in every word. So it is always recommended. I would recommend you that you need to complete everything that you need to do by, if you need to submit on 4th, you need to do it by 3rd so that you can type it on 4th, and it will auto submit on 4th midnight. So there's no submit button specially which you will have to need to go ahead with. So it will auto submit on 4th midnight. So make sure that whatever you want to do on your essays, you are done with it on 3rd, so that you can type it on 4th, and that's the end of it. Another thing is, don't get too bogged down with the essays. You also need to submit a one-page resume for the IIM-A application. The PGPX application requires you to submit a one-page resume. So everything that you have on your resume, you need to fit it to one page and make sure that it has the essence of all you have achieved till date, your extracurriculars as well as your GMAT, uh, you know your achievements with respect to your the employment. Everything needs to be put into a one page resume. So make sure you do all of that and get done with it on the 3rd itself. Nikhil, Mriddhi, how many people will be interviewed in R1 and how many are selected? Riddhi, I don't have any such idea on any such number. I can only estimate a number from the previous years. I What we have estimated is that there have been around 200 or 250 interviews, out of which around 35 or 37 people have been selected in R1. Again, this is only an estimate. This has nothing to do with the actual numbers. Nikhil, 6 months experience in manufacturing sector, 2.5 years in IT. Currently working in Ministry of Finance for the last 1.5 years. How to build a strong case for switching fields? So Nikhil, whatever builds a strong case for switching fields through any program, any MBA program, 1 year or 2 year, is going to be your resume. It is how you have planned your shift and how you communicated through the application. Srinidhi says, does IIM-A have any quota for round-wise seats of PGPX selection? Again, Srinidhi, I am, absolutely at no position to answer this question, because this is, quite in the purview of what the school decides on their own. What we can do is, once you are selected for the interview round and you need to submit an application or you need to submit your essays, we can help you out with that. Ravi Chandra, can we describe an incident that happened early in 2019 for SA1? So let us come to SA1. So SA1 would probably have, two options for most of the people. This would be, please describe some of your challenges you faced in the last 3 years of your work life and how you were able to overcome them. Now, this is one set of the questions that people will receive. Another would be probably, please describe some of the challenges you faced in your work life and how you were able to overcome them. Now, if you look at these two questions, they are slightly different. The first question asks about the last 3 years, and the second question is mostly about faced in your work life. So, Ravi, if you fall under any of these two categories, you need to see if that addresses your years, or the second category of questions that you have received from the school. According to that, you need to address, the incident. So if it falls under the last 3 years and you think it is relevant, and it has started in 2019 and it continues till 20 or maybe further than that, it depends on the incident altogether. So then you can choose to take it to any of these two options. Most of the times for PGPX, you will get usually two set of questions. The first question and the third question will differ in most of the categories. So you received the first category, last 3 years. Probably you can define something in early 2019. See if that is so much, so very important, and you need to prioritize with respect to the other incidents you have. If you think that is so very important that it holds value in this question, then you go ahead and describe it. Why not? So over here, I have also shared a sample with you. Now, with respect to this sample, this of course is not 500 words. We have cut it short to fit to the screen first of all. If you need me to share these samples, you can always write to us on email, and we'll share the complete sample with you. Hi Arun, how many challenges last 3 years do we list in the first essay? For 500 words, how many can we fit? Exactly the question and exactly where we are in this discussion. So let me just go back to the sample that I've shared. So a few lines about the introduction, and probably around 2 or 3 samples is what you can share in a lot of detail. Because if we just go back to the question over here, it says describe some of the challenges. So one is you need to describe the challenges very explicitly. Second is it should be in the period that we will assume that you will make sure of your work life. So it has nothing to do with your personal life. And the third is how you were able to overcome them. So if I'm looking at a story from your end, so I'm looking at a short story from you. So if you look at addressing a short story, what we have seen in the past is that 3 examples is maximum that you can address, Arun, in this particular question. 2 or 3, it depends on how much detail you want to go into it. Again, if you just look at the sample once again, we have a very brief introduction, 1 or 2 lines, then we come directly to the question. So if it is the past 3 years, this xxx over here refers to the years, and then I go into how I was able to overcome it. So first, what is the challenge, which are described in 1 or 2 lines, and then I go into how I was able to overcome it. An underlying factor over here is that what did you learn from this challenge? How did you grow as a professional? So that is something that you need to address as well in any of the examples. So 2 or 3 examples is what we have seen has been successful over the past few years. So again, it is up to you, your writing skills, how well you can communicate in a shorter space. So 500 words is actually a lot of space. Otherwise, if you look at the regular MBA essays, they range from any from 250 to 400 words. So 500 words gives you a lot of space to get your thoughts together. So choose your format and then go ahead with the essay. How many challenges last 3 years do we address in the first essay for 500 words? Arun, I think I've answered your question. Around 3 is good enough. If you think you can fit within the same narrative, 4 or 5, that's totally up to your writing skills. Pranav says, should we focus on a particular quality for each challenge overcome, or are they not interested in the quality? See, a business school is taking you up for the personality that you bring into the school. So, definitely, your quality or your learnings for that matter are very important. If you just look at the historic quotations about failures or challenges, it is everything is an experience. So an experience at the end of the day brings to you some learnings. So quality or learning, however you put it, that is something that is very important for the context of this essay. Do you recommend using the entire word limit? Riddhi, it is again up to you. There are many times we use, just half the word limit. If I think my case is amply set, yes, of course. If you think you need 500 words, you use that. If you need 400 words, you use that. That's totally up to the writing skills and the argument building skills that you bring forward so that you are able to address that question. So the idea over here is to not have a very exhaustive narrative that you can't even fit 2 or 3 examples. Try to fit at least 2 or 3 examples so that you can show a deeper learning aspect of your profile. But if you want to explore even one quality at depth, that is, in fact, that is all, of course, doable. Basant, even if a challenge was not solved, but some important lessons were learned, can that be included? Of course, that can be included. Every challenge cannot be solved, and that is very much understandable in the business world. So, Vasant, you can go ahead with that, no problem. Just be candid and just be, very fair with what you have learned. If you understand that the who you are dealing with over here is the faculty, and they have a whole lot of experience that they bring to the table, and they understand where you're coming from, so have faith on that and build your story on that. So a second question, which is almost common for all the applicants to IIM-A, is tell us what is special about you that makes you a good addition to the classroom. So over here, if we just break down this essay topic, it is, it has two aspects. One is what is special about you. That means I need to look into my professional and personal aspects. And what is a good addition to the classroom. So what is the classroom from your point of view? Can you explore something else? If you think you can actually, be, you can be creative with this aspect of the question. So, special about you, yes, professional and personal. You would have done it for a lot of other essay questions that you have put forward to MBA applications. So, you would have that repository set out for you. And then it is, up to your skills of building a strong narrative about what is the classroom, what is the IIM-A classroom like, how do you understand that, and then try to address this answer. MK says, is it a good idea to highlight broader learnings from the industry perspective and also from the job? Is it okay to comment on management style of one's company, particularly the negative parts? So, MK, this is a personal decision that you have to make. Again, what is negative and what is positive is very subjective over here. We need to see, how you are putting up the narrative. So make sure that the whole essay that you put together has a message to convey. We just don't want to, degrade the company where you're coming from. It is more about you than the company. So you need to focus on what are your learnings than how any XYZ company is operating. Arun Kumar Vignesh, is this question the common essay for both? More or less, yes, Arun. I have seen it common as a common essay question across both the groups. So, for a sample essay on this particular, again, just to reiterate, in case you want the detailed samples, because we have to cut short, the sample to fit into a slide. If you want the detailed sample, you can always write to us. We'll be sharing the email address, and we'll share the complete sample with you as well. So, the question over here is that what is special about you that makes you a good addition to the classroom? Now, what we want to bring forward here is your professional abilities as well as your personal abilities, and then what is your comprehension of the classroom. So, getting to the sample and your introduction, which brings together the whole, it summarizes the whole experience or the classroom experience that you have in mind. Then, probably starting with a personal example or a professional example. Again, choosing how many examples you want to put forward is totally an individual choice. Again, the point over here is that you can fit in more examples, but in 500 words, you will not be able to address a lot of examples very clearly. So, if you think you need to address a specific example more clearly, and that has, an encompassing kind of uh, an influence on the whole essay, then you can choose a single example as well. Otherwise, professional or personal, whatever comes first, again, your writing style. You can have one example in detail, then another example in more detail. You can have more examples as well, and then summarize. So, the whole writing style has to be very, very structured. the point that I want to bring over here is that it is all about business writing. You need to, look at your simple business writing skills. Don't think that it is coming from an MBA program, so you need to build some new skills. What you are doing as an individual is good enough. You just need to put it forward in a way that it communicates the whole essence very clearly. Clarity is the main point over here. What is the lesson that you want to communicate, and does your example communicate that? That is the main thing that you should focus on when you are writing these essays, especially in such a short span of time. Pranav says, can I use a 6-year-old story? Good quality exhibited outcome and learning, but I'm concerned because of how old. So, Pranav, your concern is well defined, because if I use a 6-year-old story, that means I have nothing new to talk about. So, is that so important that you have no other new story about it? That is something that is something that you need to think about and then choose your stories. So more than writing skills, this is more about choosing the right stories, choosing what you want to communicate to the outcome, where you will add the maximum value, and being consistent in that communication. Arun, I've answered your question. All right, please keep on putting in your questions. I'll be happy to address them in the course of this discussion. Right. So a third set of essays that everybody would have got would be either one or two out of these. The first is, what will a management degree bring to you at this stage of your career? And what do the next 5 years mean to you in terms of your career? So these are slightly different questions. And you need to make sure that you're addressing the right essence with respect to the question that you have got. So a management degree doesn't actually mean an IIM-A degree. So don't get into a discourse of, why I'm Ahmedabad over here. So bring to you at this stage of your career. So you need to define what stage of your career you're in. Then once you have it clearly spelled out, where you are and where you want to go, how will the management degree actually help you? Then of course putting in some bit of how the IIM-A degree actually helps you is of course relevant. On the second question, what do the next 5 years mean to you in terms of your career? So over here we have two three things to attend to. One is the next 5 years, so that means we are looking at the short term. And in career means we are not looking at any personal takeaways. We are looking at purely the professional takeaways. And what do the next 5 years mean to you in terms of your career means that where are you headed in the long term? What is the vision that drives you? What is it that motivates you? Are you able to communicate all of that in the essay? So these are things which will be important for you to address, while communicating your points across in this particular essay. Arun says, will these essays generally form the basis of the interviews since there is no separate shortlisting based on these essays? Of course, yes, Arun, you can definitely think and assume that yes, these essays will be with the AdCom when you are interviewing. And Pranav says, for the first one, are they expecting IIM-A specifics as well? Clubs, courses, profs. Pranav, which was the first one that you are referring to? The first set of questions that we addressed, or the first out of these two? Yashwant says, is GMAT score accepted at IIM-A if you are an Indian student? Please explain what are the constraints. So, Yashwant, the only constraint for getting your GMAT score accepted at IIM-A is that in the current period, it should be an offline or an in-center score. So, they are not accepting the online scores. Management degree at this stage, Pranav. Okay, for the first one, are they expecting? That is totally up to you, Pranav, how you build the narrative. Technically, what they say is management degree. They are not asking about IIM-A specifically. If you think you can, really correlate and extend it to the IIM-A degree, that is totally up to you. Or in the classroom essay as well. Yeah, of course, it is totally up to you to build that narrative. Now, how creatively you address that, that is an individual perception. As such, there is no bias on addressing IIM-A on this. That is not a no, no, it is definitely a yes. Right. So, for these two topics, will a management degree bring what will a management degree bring to you at this stage of your career, or what do the next 5 years mean to you in terms of your career? We can have a structure like this where you go about, first addressing your goals and then addressing your career growth over the next 5 years. You can also take it to the long term. It again depends on how you write and how you bring it forward. Again, do mention the gaps, so where you are right now and where you see yourself in the next short term. Address the gaps very specifically. So what I'm putting forward here is just a sample. This is not even like 200 words. So when you build it to 500 words, you can take any section to any detail. Then address why and how an MBA program will help you. So once you have the gaps in place, then you can go into addressing, how the MBA program will help you and what specific parts of that MBA program, will help you address those gaps. And again, just coming back to the question, career is the main point over here. So you need to address, somehow you need to connect all of this to what you want to achieve in the long term as well, so that this builds a base for why MBA very thoroughly. So a short term is just a stop gap arrangement. So when you achieve something in the short term, it is intended to go towards the long term. So don't avoid the long term altogether in this discussion. You can build on the long term as well, and then summarize it altogether. In terms of how you think the MBA will help you, from a specific program will help you, what are the components, how deeply you know those components, how well you have researched. These are all opportunities for you to bring that dialogue forward. So, again, I'm open to questions. And if you want these samples, you can always write to us on this email address over here. We'll be sharing the samples, the complete samples with you as well. So please put forward any further questions that you have with respect to your IIM-A PGPX applications for round one. Arun says, do you have a sample for the one page resume as well? It will be really helpful. Yes, Arun, please do email us. We will share the sample with you. Email on this email address, please. Please send an email and we'll share the samples. Whatever you require, you could mention it on the email. And just to address the resume as well, I think, put forward your questions on the resume. So when you are building your resume for an MBA application, you need to address, a fair bit of points over here. One is, in addition to your technical work experience, you need to address your extracurriculars, the positions of responsibility, any other experiences that you think you will that will add. You can also add your GMAT score. Again, another thing that you can add over here is, the very functional skills and the technical skills that you bring to the table, and plus a very clear line of the initial line of where you are positioning yourself. So the sector that you're positioning yourself for, a 1 year program is a very short duration program. So having that clarity of being able to position yourself well during that discussion, and the interview would be not more than 20 to 30 minutes. So you need to be able to address very specifically where you are headed, and the clarity of research that you have had on what the value add of this program would be. So all that you can put together in your resume, and make sure that you don't make a very tech resume. You should look at putting your resume in a very 360-degree format. Look at your team exposures, look at your look at your international work that you have done, the work that you have done with different teams who have been globally placed. And you can also address all of these in terms of your extracurriculars work experience as well, not only your technical work experience. Aditya wanted to ask about how analytical detail does one have to be while applying? Can I do a PM/EM marketing in my current SaaS company post an MBA? Can one mention multiple interests? So, Aditya, this is a very interesting question. When you are applying to an undergraduate program, this is, you need to be very, when you are applying to an undergraduate program, you can explore options. When it is a postgraduate program, you need to be very clear on where you're headed, especially for a 1 year program. It starts and it ends in a jiffy. So you'll not have time to explore multiple interests. So having multiple interests means that you'll actually be lost at the end of the program. So that's something that no program would like to have, right? So as focused as you are, the maximum value that you can gain out of that program. That is why it is very much recommended that you do all that research beforehand, and be very focused when you're applying to a 1 year program. A 2 year MBA program again works differently. You have options to choose internship, a summer internship that helps you pivot yourself in a different way. But for a 1 year program, you need to be very focused on your the transferable skills, where you're headed, what are the skills you want to build, and how you have worked towards it. Pranav, not much on the PGPX interviews. Of course, Pranav, this was not intended to be on the interviews. You can always get in touch for the interviews. It would be great if there can be a similar session, given it's not like the traditional. No, can't say what you assume out of the traditional B-school interviews. What you think is traditional might not be what PGPS thinks as traditional. But we can definitely look into it. Will doing an MBA at 30 years be a good decision? Will the acceptance rate be affected? So your question is very globetrotters. Your question is very generic. If you could, specify your question very at least to a certain benchmark, I could address that. MBA at 30 years of age would be a good decision. That I can definitely address. Yes, it would be if you have your goals clearly spelled out. Acceptance rate be affected for IIMs and ISB? Age is something that they are not looking at. They are very much interested in where you're coming from and where you're headed to, and how you have worked towards it. If you can address that in your application as well as your interview, I think you are well placed for getting through. Right. So, are there any other questions that I can address? I can definitely look into those right now. Right. So, all the best for your applications and all the best for your essays. Please prepare well for your interview. Uh, Thank you, Aditya. Thank you for joining us. And definitely get in touch if you need any specific information or any specific assistance. We'll be happy to help you out. Can a low GPA be compensated with a good GRE to an extent? Yes, depends on how low it is. But to an extent, yes, if it can definitely be compensated. Arun Kumar, for an older candidate with around 10 years of work experience, which school, in your opinion, is a better suited school, PGP or IIM-A PGPX? Again, Arun, I would like to know your sector, where you're coming from, and where you are planning to go to. Because at 10 years of experience, there is a certain progression that you get out of an IIM-A and a certain progression that you get from an ISB. I have had applicants from both the backgrounds going into both the programs and having their goals fulfilled. So it is very much important to understand where you're coming from so that this question can be addressed. Globetrotters, which universities should one prefer for placements into PE and BC? So over here, there are 2 points over here, Globetrotters. One is, what is the background that you're coming from? If you're coming from a similar industry like PE or BC, a 1 year program will be very much suitable for you to, go ahead with any university because you have that previous background. You are building onto that experience, and once you have done that, you are of course positioning yourself for a stronger role in that particular industry. But if you are planning to transition from a certain industry, then in that case you need to probably look at a 2 year MBA so that you have a summer internship, you have some time to spend with the industry, learn the basics, and then pivot yourself. So the way you are planning to pivot yourself is very much important to evaluate which university will actually be suitable. If one has done a 3 year BCom from India, will US universities which accept students for? Of course not. The ones who are accepting 4 years bachelor's program, you will have to undergo another 1 year of education before you qualify for that candidature. So that is something that is important for the specific programs that you're looking at. So you can try a PGTM course or something like. I think a PGTM course is the most relevant over here. A master's will again be 2 years, so you can look at that post a 3 year BCom from India. Either a master's, which would be probably 2 years, or a PGTM would be a 1 year. So for that will suffice your 4 years bachelor program requirement for this particular candidate. So please feel free to reach out for any of the samples that we have shared here or any other queries that you have. We'll be happy to assist you with those. Rohit Chopra, thank you for joining us. It will be helpful if you can explain about core manufacturing sector with 10 years of experience. So Rohit, can you please tell me more about what experience you have in the core manufacturing sector? Has it been production or operations? And what exactly do you want me to address? Which program is suitable for you, or what exactly, the kind of your question is not very clear over here. I think Rohit is not with us now. So, Amit, I belong to Defense Technical. Is it advisable to go for GMAT? Amit, again, how many years of work experience do you have? Uh, and what is your experience on this in terms of, technical? Yes, but have you been into production itself or operations? If you could specify that, I could address this question more clearly. Rohit says operations and supplier quality. Looking for programs suited. Rohit, are you looking for programs in India itself? Then you could go in for any of the 1 year programs, and I think you would be able to achieve the career growth that you want. Hi Prashant, how are you? Background in manufacturing engineer with 10 years of experience in core operations, supply quality, looking for program suited. So Rohit, you can go in for two kinds of programs. One is the full-time programs, which will, give you the access to the placement opportunities. And another is the part-time or the weekend programs, which would give you the knowledge and the brand, but then the placement opportunity, the placement process opportunity would not be there. So any of these two programs will be suitable to your profile. Depends on where you want to grow. If you think your company itself would give you that particular growth, then you can go ahead with that. Prashant, when should I give my GMAT exam given the end of the second round is 28th October? So Prashant, for IIM Ahmedabad, actually for the first, for any round application, you need to just submit your resume details very properly in terms of the application form that they're looking for. So there are no essays that you need to submit. If you think you will get the appropriate GMAT score by 22nd or 20th of October, go ahead and do that. So that's totally up to you to decide when you will get that appropriate GMAT score, which will, suffice one, your preparation, and second, what the school looks for. Probably keeping a deadline of around 20th of October is a good timeline looking at the second round. 17 years of experience working on air, avionics equipment. Hmm. So, Amit, one, you need to understand that the onus of this transition is totally on you. So, you need to map your way in terms of identifying your transferable skills, which industry and which function you want to pivot to. Accordingly, you need to prepare yourself for the whole cycle and which program actually you are fitting in. If you really want to shift from avionics equipment aircraft to an X industry, which is that X industry? Where do you fit in? And how really will you map that out? That transition communicate through the application. Prashant says, "What is the case with IML?" Uh, So I'm L. Prashant has its own deadlines. So just look through those deadlines, and you'll be able to understand when you want to do it. One IML will require you to submit at least four essays beforehand. So you need to be working parallelly on those essays. IIM-A is the only school in India which doesn't require any essays in the initial stage. So rest of the schools will definitely ask you to submit an essay. So start working on that alongside your GMAT preparation. right? So you have a details. In case you need any more information, you can definitely log in and connect, and we'll be happy to get you started on the process. Thank you so much, and all the best for your application cycle.